Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. News breaking at the top of this bulletin. Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump spoke over the phone. That's news that's just coming in. Details are out. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov confirmed that the telephone conversation took place and that Kremlin would be briefing. It was President Trump who announced on his social media platform Truth Social that he would be speaking to the Russian president. Now, the conversation between the two leaders lasted for almost an hour. It's being told Putin noted Russia's readiness to continue the negotiation process with Ukraine. There's a lot of conversation on how to end that war, and Donald Trump wants to play peacemaker, broker a ceasefire between the two countries. Specific dates for the third round of talks in Istanbul were not discussed. We have a lot of details that are coming in, but all this when Putin told Trump that Russia will not back down from its goals to eliminate the causes of the conflict in Ukraine. That's what the aide of Russian President Ushakov said to the media. Putin had left earlier from a plenary session of the Strong Ideas for a New Time Forum in a hurry. He announced that he's going to have a phone call with the US president. Listen in to what he had to say while he was leaving the forum.
Пожалуйста, не сердитесь, я понимаю, что мы могли бы и больше поговорить, но так неловко заставлять себя ждать, там сейчас обидеться еще. Спасибо вам большое, удачи.
My colleague Pranay Upadhyay joins me for more on this. Pranay, big news. A Putin-Trump conversation over the Russia-Ukraine war, details of which have emerged. Explain to us, where is this headed?
Certainly, it is heading toward the resolution of Russia-Ukraine war, but you know how this Russia-Ukraine war will end. This we do not know as yet, because the President Donald Trump and President Putin both had about an hour-long phone conversation in which Russia expressed the commitment for having a dialogue with the Ukrainian, but not resolving with any compromise per se. And also, he expressed that the process is going to be a bilateral thing. He has expressed his willingness to participate in the dialogue process, which is called the the third round of the Istanbul dialogue process. But as far as the Ukraine issue is concerned, he expressed that he is not going to relinquish the land or going for any compromise. So certainly this leads to another chapter where we do not know that how it is going to end, and how President Donald Trump, who's so committed to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict and have a role of him in the mediation process, is going to pan out and logically conclude in it. So these are the contours of it. But when President Putin and President Trump had a phone call, they also spoke about the Iran conflict, the Middle East conflict process, and there also both agreed that there should be a dialogue process to end the conflict and reduce the tensions in the Middle East.
Well, Pranay, thank you so much for these inputs, but stay on with us. There's another big story that we've been covering and tracking since yesterday, and that has to do with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 5-country, 2-continent tour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi concluded the first leg of his 5-nation tour. He left Ghana for Trinidad and Tobago. That is his second stop. He will hold talks with the President and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, discuss strengthening of bilateral relations in Port of Spain. Prime Minister Modi is expected to address a joint session of Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, and also scheduled to address the Indian diaspora. During his visit to Ghana, Prime Minister Modi was also conferred with the Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana, the country's highest civilian honor by President John Mahama. During his meeting with the top leadership, the two countries elevated their ties to a comprehensive partnership, emphasizing scope in areas of critical minerals, defense, maritime security, and energy. Being welcomed in Ghana, and the songs, the culture of India quite visible. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, the music of Jai Ho, all of that and more. But he is now on his way to Trinidad and Tobago. What's going to happen over there? A lot of Bhojpuri, if I'm not wrong. Pranay, if I could bring you in on this one. A lot of Bihar Connect when he's going to be in Trinidad and Tobago. What's on the agenda? What is Prime Minister Narendra Modi really going to do? We saw a lot of connect, a lot of cultural ties that he emphasized on, and particularly democracy. What's he going to do now?
You're absolutely right, Geeta. Trinidad and Tobago, a small country in the Caribbean, has this very strong relation with India. You can very well assess it by the very fact that out of 14 lakh population of Trinidad and Tobago, around 40 to 45% are of Indian origin. As you rightly pointed out, that Bihar or Eastern UP connect of Trinidad and Tobago is very evident and very strong, because Bhojpuri is not only spoken there. Both Prime Minister and President are of Indian origin, and both are women, state of head and state of government in Trinidad and Tobago. And the importance of Trinidad and Tobago's relation is not only the cultural ties or civilizational ties with India, but also with the fact that this is an important democracy with which India want to forge more stronger relationship in coming times. And that's why Prime Minister Narendra Modi is taking a visit, a very important visit, and we can say that this is this century's first visit to Trinidad and Tobago by any Indian Prime Minister. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to reach about in few hours in Trinidad and Tobago, port of Spain, where he'll be received. He will also address the joint session of the parliament, as he addressed the joint session of parliament in Ghana and in Trinidad and Tobago. He will also be having a diaspora meeting, as we know that there is a very strong diaspora connect with Trinidad and Tobago, and also that is the country with where the Indian UPI also works. So even not only the old ties are there with Trinidad and Tobago, but also in terms of the future relationship, the future ties with Trinidad and Tobago are also important, and that's why India is heavily investing in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of the digital public infrastructure, in terms of the in terms of economic activities. And India really want to contribute constructively in the development process of Trinidad and Tobago to strengthen the old ties and renew the new bond.
Well, Pranay, thank you so much for joining us. From Bhojpuri beats to billion-dollar deals, we'll be tracking all the developments coming in from Trinidad and Tobago. As intensive debate on the big, beautiful bill continues, U.S. Minority Leader of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, filibustered for 8 hours and now is trying to stall the final voting. It continues. Donald Trump's huge budget bill is being debated before the final voting in the U.S. House of Representatives. Democratic Minority House Leader Hakeem Jeffries used the magic minute before the final voting. Trump wants his big, beautiful bill passed by Friday, but the Congress is concerned over its impact on national debt and health care. The multi-trillion-dollar bill would benefit businesses and corporates, manufacturers, and the high-income Americans. It will be worse for low-income Americans, Medicaid beneficiaries, and for deficit hawks.
It had been my hope, Mr. Speaker, that we'd be able to have a robust debate, passionate support or passionate opposition in connection with this bill, that hundreds of members on both sides of the aisle could participate in. Instead, we have a limited debate where the relevant committees of jurisdiction have been given 15 minutes each on a bill of such significant magnitude as it relates to the health, the safety, and the well-being of the American people. And because that debate was so limited, I feel the obligation, Mr. Speaker, to stand on this House floor and take my sweet time to tell the stories of the American people. And that's exactly what I intend to do.
Well, that's the news that's just coming in. Big, beautiful bill debate continues. It's ongoing. Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader of the U.S. House of Representatives, is filibustering as we speak, not allowing voting to begin. It just seems like they're trying to stall the voting to ensure that the bill does not go through and then reaches the White House. The US President had earlier said that it is time that everybody votes for the bill, especially the Republicans. It would be ridiculous for the Republicans not to vote for this bill. But Hakeem Jeffries, and I quote him, says, "I will take my sweet time." Rohit Sharma, my colleague, joins me from Washington, D.C. Rohit, interesting. He used the magic minute and is filibustering as we speak. What happens to the bill?
Well, look, this is one of those provisions that allows the minority leader to take the floor as long as he wants to. You rightly pointed out he could be going for a record here. I mean, the last record was set for 8 hours and 23 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. It was done by Kevin McCarthy in 2021. So this is a last-ditch effort to delay the bill. And meanwhile, on the parallelly, Democrats are calling their constituents to call some of the Republican congressmen to switch their votes. So I think this is last bit of posturing, so to say, trying to get some headlines out of the speech. But Republicans are confident. Speaker Johnson is very confident that they have the votes and they will be able to, table the bill as soon as Jeffries concludes his speech and get this bill to President's desk so that he could sign this on July 4th, as promised by President Trump.
Well, again, there is a 4th of July deadline that the president has set. Not that it is a deadline after which the bill will cease to exist, but it's a deadline for President Trump. Do you think Jeffries will manage to ensure that that does not happen?
Well, he can keep talking for as long as he wants. I mean, last I checked, he's only had one loo break, so we'll have to wait and watch how he's able to do that. But I think, in all reality, I think the speech has to end at some point, Geeta. And I think you've got to, sort of look at the Republicans. And we always say this in Washington, D.C., that Republicans always fall in line. There were 4 big holdout votes up until midnight last night. And this morning, they were able to convince them, the White House were able to convince them to vote on the Republican line. So I think, it is a foregone conclusion at this point in time. He could delay it by another hour, 2 or 3 hours, but the bill will be passed and Donald Trump will sign it either tonight or tomorrow.
Well, also, just quickly, Rohit, when the filibustering is happening, there's also a lot of engagement, backroom conversations and backroom channels that open up to ensure that those Republicans who had sided against the bill are talked back into not voting for the bill. Do you think that's what the Democrats are doing right now?
They're trying. They definitely are trying, Geeta. And that's what happens in the clock room. You try to corner some of these holdout votes and try to convince them. But I think our understanding at this point is that President Trump has in the White House has convinced them of ensuring that their concerns are taken care of. Some will be taken care of with the executive orders, but Democrats are certainly hoping that if they could, make it more difficult for Republicans to pass this bill, I think that would be a win for them. But as I said, I think they've lined up all the votes, they've counted the numbers multiple times, and as soon as the bill is tabled, it will definitely pass today.
Right, Rohit Sharma, thank you so much for joining me. You keep a tab on what's happening there in the House, and we'll keep dipping into you as and when news breaks. Thank you. Hamas and Israel staked out their positions ahead of expected talks on a Washington-backed ceasefire proposal, with the Hamas suggesting it was open to an agreement, while the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu vowed that there will be no Hamas in post-war Gaza.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking at the Europe-Asia Pipeline Company Limited facilities in Ashkelon, warned that Israel would completely eliminate Hamas and that there will be no Hamastan.
I'm telling you, there will be no Hamas. There will be no Hamastan. We are not going back to that. It's over. We will free all our hostages. Oh, come on. How can you say that? Those are 2 conflicting goals. What nonsense. It works together. We will accomplish it together. contrary to what people say. We will eliminate them completely.
His remark comes day after US President Donald Trump announced that Israel agreed to a 60-day ceasefire plan in Gaza. Netanyahu's stern statement came as the Hamas said it was considering a new proposal for a ceasefire. In a statement, Hamas said its aim was to reach an agreement that would stop the war and lead to Israel withdrawing its forces from Gaza. While on the other hand, Israeli Foreign Minister said that his country was serious about reaching a deal with the Palestinian Hamas group to end the war.
Hamas still holds 50 of our hostages in crew captivity. The war can end tomorrow if it releases them and lays down its arms. We are serious in our will to reach a hostage deal and a ceasefire.
Meanwhile, family members of Israeli hostages protested in Tel Aviv calling for a ceasefire with Hamas and the release of the remaining 50 people still held captive in Gaza. They also called for the government to end the war in Gaza.
I think that there is no ceasefire until the tanks and guns and RPGs stop firing. That's when there's a ceasefire, not when someone makes a public statement. We understand that President Trump is very, very engaged in bringing an end to the war in Gaza and returning the hostages. But I live in Israel. I'm a citizen of Israel. My government in Israel needs to be at least that engaged and more engaged. It is our responsibility to stop the war and return the hostages. If our Prime Minister is traveling to the United States next week, it must only be to announce a ceasefire, end of the war, and the hostages returning not 1 by 1, not 8 by 8, not 10 by 10. All 50 hostages must come home.
Netanyahu's trip to the US next week will likely include further discussions with Trump on a possible Gaza ceasefire and a deal to release hostages held by Hamas. With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
While the Israeli Prime Minister has rejected any proposal by the United States of America for a ceasefire, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza continues. I spoke with a renowned journalist and author from Tel Aviv, Gideon Levy. And this is what he had to say about what Israel is doing in Gaza. Listen in.
The one who is accountable to this is a criminal of war. And those are the decision makers of Israel, from the prime ministers through the heads of the army. It's not only about food, it's also about medicines. People are dying by dozens because of lack of medical treatment and lack of medicine. They are dying because Israel is bombing the hospitals in Gaza with all kinds of excuses. Most of them are based on lies. This is unforgivable, and it is really the task, the role of the international community to do something about it. It's impossible that this catastrophe will continue and the world will stay aside and do nothing about it. I'm not speaking about demonstrations. I'm not speaking about protests and petitions. The world should take some measures, because this slaughter is going on by the time that we are talking now. Whatever you have done for fighting apartheid in South Africa, do the same. It was very effective then. Do the same. Isolate, boycott, whatever is, will make the Israelis accountable for what they are doing and pay a price for it. There is no other way. They will not voluntarily put an end to all those atrocities and crimes. It will happen only if they will be forced to do so. And the only way to do it is exactly like South Africa. When the South African couldn't play rugby in the world, it was the beginning of the end. When the business people of South Africa came to the government and told them we cannot go on like this, it was the beginning of the end of the apartheid. Same will be valid about Israel and the occupation.
This is just part of the entire interview that I've done for, and you can watch the full interview on India Today Global. It's a fantastic, brilliant interview on how some Israelis are viewing Israeli action in Gaza. But let's go across to Gaza itself. Ghada Ul-Kurd, a journalist from Gaza, is joining me to discuss how journalists are not safe. All international norms have been violated. Ghada, I can't say stay safe, are you safe, or will you be safe, because these are all empty words. What you've seen in the past months and what's happening in Gaza, the uncertainty of life itself speaks. But let's just speak about and asking you, how's the situation on the ground right now?
Well, we are talking now about 21 months of genocide against the Palestinian people, against more than 2 million people who are living in a small zone of Gaza Strip. We cannot describe the situation on the ground. It's lots of bombing around the hour, lots of airstrike, Israeli airstrike targeting schools, tents, residential buildings, hospitals, even people who are walking in the streets, or even people who are staying in cafes or restaurants. Regarding the starvation, it's more than 3 months now, and the Palestinian people who are living inside Gaza, they are starving from the lack of food. People are going to humanitarian aid sites to get some parcel of food where they are being shot by the Israelis, by the Israeli army, and no one can rescue them from there. Types of killing around the hour against the Palestinian, against children, against women, against old, elderly people, hospitals, medical centers, they are running out from medical supplies. They are running out from fuel. People, they are collapsing. They are walking in the street and they cannot move because they have become very weak. Personally, for myself, we are losing too much weight because of the starvation. We cannot even in our maybe tents because of the heavy airstrikes around the hour against the people.
Right. Ghada, what are you surviving on? What is the food that is available to you? What are you actually eating? Because things are looking very, very bad on the ground.
We are depending sometimes on rice, on some kind of lentils, and we have some popular food here called falafel. It's made from beans, and all the time we are eating beans. The vegetables that we have already here, it's from the local production, and it's very high prices and with little amount. No one can go and buy this amount. So we are talking about just canned food, lentils, rice, beans. That's all what we have. We don't have sugar or sweets. We don't have chocolate, or even like we don't have any kind of juice. We are talking about the essentials elements of food. It's not available.
Right. Ghada, you're talking about how little you have to eat, but you're still going out there and performing your duty, reporting every day. How difficult has it been? How difficult has this personal journey been for you?
Maybe you can see on my face, this is not my face. I'm losing too much weight. I lost for now almost 10 kilos. And even my bones, my muscles, I cannot sometimes carry anything because I don't have enough food to continue to do my work. Even I have to walk to do my work or to do my reports during the day. Sometimes I don't have way of transportation to go because the fuel is we have shortage in the fuel here, and taxis or cars, they are using the fuel all the time. So I have to walk. Sometimes it needs me like 1 hour to go for my office, which needs sometimes 10 minutes because it takes me too much to walk under the sun heat. But still, I can have like small pieces of sandwiches, and which is, as I told you, it's a popular food here in Gaza, made from lentils, from beans, and which is unhealthy. But I have to eat it just to give me some energy, to give me the ability to go and to work. Sometimes I sleep hungry. Sometimes I don't have this kind of food because I feel my stomach is refusing this kind of food, which is unhealthy. So I sometimes I sleep without eating, just drinking some water to stay alive.
Gada Alkut, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience with us. We only hope and pray that things become or go back to as they were before. Thank you for your courage, for reporting, continuing to report despite and in spite of all these adversities. But it is heartbreaking to see your personal story as also what's happening in Gaza.